There are no bills for introduction. The House then comes to questions for oral answer. And the first question stands in the name of the Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. What was the combined increase in the value of the Crown's equity in Meridian, Mighty River Power, Solid Energy, Genesis and Air New Zealand for each of the last 5 years?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, according to the Crown financial statements, the combined value of Crown's equity in these 5 entities was $11.1 billion as at 30 June 2010. This compares with $7.1 billion 5 years earlier. And if the member wants the year-by-year numbers, 2005 7.1, 2006 9.6, 2007 11.1, 2008 10.1, 2009 10.4, 2010 11.1.
The Honourable David Parker.
Was the $3 billion increase in value of the SOEs that the Minister has just told the House additional to the dividends received which were accounted for as revenue?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, yes, Mr Speaker, because there are two different things. One's a cash payment to the Crown and the other is an increase or change in the value of the company. Of course, as the member will know, there's a process that sits alongside what's recorded in the Crown accounts, and that is the commercial valuations.
The Honourable David Parker.
Was the increase in value also additional to the over $1 billion of capital distributions during that period?
The Honourable Bill English.
Yes, Mr Speaker. Not quite, in the sense that a fair bit of the $1 billion of capital dividend actually came from the sale of some energy assets to foreigners.
The Honourable Dave, for Chris Tremaine, my apologies, Chris Tremaine.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what factors account for the increase in SOE values and what actions has this government taken to improve state-owned enterprise governance?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, probably a major contributor to the lift in value was that electricity prices increased quite dramatically through the period of the early 2000s. So it's hardly surprising that the value of the generators increased. The government believes that extracting revenue from consumers by SOEs whose actions are not fully transparent, operating in a market that is short on competition, is not a good way for the government to get revenue, and that's why we've restructured the electricity market to make it more competitive and taken a range of measures to make SOE performance more transparent.
The Honourable David Parker.
Is the reason the Minister continues to downplay total returns from SOEs that he knows how unpopular his plans are to sell these profitable companies because the vast majority of New Zealanders know they will be worse off?
The Honourable Bill English.
No, Mr Speaker, and New Zealanders will be better off if the government is able to follow through on its proposal, partly because as the government retains 51% at least and therefore control of these organisations that will receive the benefit of any uplift in value, consumers will get a better deal from companies operating transparently in a competitive electricity market, and mums and dads will get the opportunity to invest in their own economy. And finally, we would rather pay dividends to New Zealanders than interest to foreigners.
The Honourable David Parker.
Are the SOEs his government is planning to sell poorly performing with low rates of return, and he was trying to convince the House earlier in the week, or do they represent a fantastic opportunity to invest, as John Key is saying?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, they're in the process of changing from the first to the second. They have been poor-performing entities paying very low dividends for the amount of capital that's been invested in them, and that is capital that comes from people who pay their power bills. It doesn't drop out of the sky. We are in the process of improving their performance and turning them into very good investments.
Question number 2, Simon Bridges.
Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Finance.
Order. I want to hear this question. Simon
How
Bridges.
did Budget 2011 continue